Time now to take a look through the French newspapers, and for that I'm joined by Aurore Dupuis. Hello, Aurore.
Hi, Claire.
We're starting off, of course, with more reactions to those cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad published by Charlie Hebdo.
Absolutely, and it's something that could fuel further anger across the world, and it comes just after, the release of that controversial video, anti-Islam video that sparked protests worldwide. It's not the first time that Charlie Hebdo publishes such controversial cartoons. Remember last year they published a special edition called Sharia Hebdo, and soon afterwards, a group of Salafists reportedly set their offices on fire, and the journalists had to find refuge in a different newsroom, in the newsroom of the newspaper Libération. Let's take a look at the front page of Libération, and this time it seems that the newspaper is not sticking to Charlie Hebdo. It's wondering whether the weekly hasn't gone over the line. How should we describe the cartoons? Is it freedom of expression or a dangerous provocation, wonders the paper. Let's take a look at the editorial now. In France's democracy, it says, newspapers should be free to publish what they want readers to read what they want to read, and if the public is shocked, they should just go down the legal route and sue the paper if they don't agree with it, rather than, spark violent protests. Just for your information, though, somebody has already filed a complaint here in France against the weekly for inciting religious hatred.
Now, Le Monde is also asking the question, isn't this just adding fuel to the fire?
Yeah, let's take a look at the editorial in Le Monde newspaper, and it argues that France is a secular country, that religion is something that can be analysed, criticised and even ridiculed from time to time. However, the paper does hope that the editors of Charlie Hebdo are aware of what's at stake.
Moving on to the French edition of the Huffington Post, it's not mincing its words. It seems completely against Charlie Hebdo's decision.
Absolutely, quite a harsh opinion piece there. It says, I quote, Charlie, it ain't funny. Charlie Hebdo is known for its incorrect, provocative, outrageous content, and it has to shock and sting. But this time, it's just using freedom of expression as an excuse, says the Huffington Post. It has "by me" written all over it. And it has quite a fair point, because, copies of Charlie Hebdo actually ran out at midday yesterday. So according to the Huffington Post, that was just an opportunity for the weekly to sell and to make profit.
And there are reports that it's in financial trouble, that paper, so there you go. Anyway, now the French government, it's worried that, of course, there have already been protests outside its US embassy, and it's worried that there'll be violence in countries where it has nationals, and it's shut down schools and embassies.
Yes, indeed. Let's take a look at the front page of Le Figaro, and it says that France is on high alert. French embassies, consulates and schools have all been shut in 20 different countries, and here in Paris, there are fears that violence could break out on Saturday, because there's loads of internet users that have been calling for protests on social networks like Facebook, for example, and police forces have already been deployed outside Charlie Hebdo's offices just to make sure that nothing happens there. And the weekly's website has already been hacked, so French authorities have already launched an investigation on that.
We're going to move on to something completely different, but very worrying as well, and that's Le Parisien. It's published a research carried out here in France on genetically modified crops, and there are some worrying findings.
Absolutely. Scientists spent 2 years feeding 200 rats with GM maize, and they found that the rats died prematurely with tumours, liver and kidney problems. So for human beings, that could be extremely dangerous, according to those scientists, because the meat, the eggs, the milk that we drink or eat can come from animals that eat GM crops. So it could be worrying, because an estimated 450 million Europeans eat food products that are linked to GM crops. So the French government has called for an inquiry. We can now take a look at a cartoon still in the same newspaper, in Le Parisien, that wraps up this situation quite well. You can see 2 rats there. One of them is looking quite normal, but the other one has got loads of tumours, and he says that GM corn is actually much easier to turn into popcorn.
I've seen some quite distressing images of those rats on the internet. All right, thank you very much, Aurore, for taking us through the French papers.